Hello and welcome to Encouraging Others in Loving Jesus. I'm your host, Kim Smith. This is episode 376. When kindness and generosity flow. Well, I'm already stumbling over my words and we're in the first 30 seconds of the podcast. Oh my goodness. Well, I normally don't record at 6:30 in the morning, but I have got some stuff on my plate at the moment that makes it very difficult to get a lot of things done that I normally do. And I'm like, I'm going to just turn this mic on and we're just going to go with it. I'm going to read a passage of scripture that as a modern day Christian, most likely you've not heard this specific scripture. You've probably not heard this scripture preached on unless somebody was preaching through the life of King Josiah, which is who we've been studying for the last few weeks. And we have one more lesson in his remarkable life. But this passage has touched me, and it's really convicting me. I'm going to be just real honest with you. It's a story about Josiah continuing to lead the people to serve and follow God. And they've already rededicated themselves. They've dedicated the temple. They have gone back to doing the things that they know to do, but just have not been doing them. And in this passage, we see them celebrate the Passover appropriately for the first time since the prophet Samuel. I mean, like hundreds of years before, they've just either been going through the motions or they haven't been doing it at all, for the most part. Now, we've seen one of the other good kings did reinstitute the Passover, but it's just amazing what happens in our life, what falls off in our life when we're not in the place where we need to be with the Lord. And what I want you to notice, I'm going to read this all the way through, which is something very rare for me, and I'm not going to comment on it, but what I want you to notice is the fact that kindness and generosity flow out of these people. It flows out of Josiah. It flows out of the Levites. It flows out of the priest. It flows out of the people. And I want us to really take a heart check. Our weekly engagement feature is this: pray Psalm 139, 23 through 24. And if you've listened to the podcast any amount of time, if you don't know those verses, like how? How? Because I mention them so often, but Psalm 139, 23 through 24. It's what I pray over myself, and it's what I pray over others all the time. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out any way in me that offends you, and lead me in the way of everlasting life. And I'm asking you that that be your prayer as it is mine, that you will pray it for yourself and ask the Lord to show you what naturally flows from your heart. Right now, what I've realized is because of the circumstances that I'm dealing with, my natural inclination is not to have kindness and generosity flow out of my heart. My natural inclination is for anxiety and quick words to flow out. Now, I may catch them, but I know that that was my first thought, and I don't like that at all. And so, as I read through this, I just ask that you take a few moments and just ask the Lord to search you. What is it that automatically pours out of your life at the moment? And if it would help, either ask or try to put yourself in the position of the people that are closest to you and just reflect. What do you think they would say automatically flows from your mouth and your attitudes during this particular season of time? What's in our heart pours out. And it isn't always what we want it to be, it's what it really is. So here we go. Let me read 2 Chronicles 35 and listen for the attitudes and the actions of the people in the story. Listen for the kindness and generosity that is flowing from them. Then Josiah announced that the Passover of the Lord would be celebrated in Jerusalem, and so the Passover lamb was slaughtered on the 14th day of the first month. Josiah also assigned the priests to their duties and encouraged them in their work at the temple of the Lord. He issued this order to the Levites, who were to teach all people and who had been set apart to serve the Lord. Put the holy ark in the temple that was built by Solomon, son of David, the king of Israel. You no longer need to carry it back and forth on your shoulders. Now spend your time serving the Lord your God and his people Israel. Report for duty according to the family divisions of your ancestors, following the directions of King David of Israel and the directions of his son Solomon. Then stand in the sanctuary at the place appointed for your family division and help the families assigned to you as they bring their offerings to the temple. Slaughter the Passover lambs, purify yourselves, and prepare to help those who come. Follow all the directions that the Lord gave through Moses. Then Josiah provided 30,000 lambs and young goats for the people's Passover offerings, along with 3,000 cattle, all from the king's own flocks and herds. The king's officials also made willing contributions to the people, priests, and Levites. Hilkiah, Zechariah, and Jehiel, the administrators of God's temple, gave the priests 2,600 lambs and young goats and 3,000 cattle as Passover offerings. The Levite leaders, Conaniah and his brothers Shimei and Nethanel, as well as Hashabiah, Jael, and Jozabad, gave 5,000 lambs and young goats and 500 cattle to the Levites for their Passover offerings. When everything was ready for the Passover celebration, the priests and the Levites took their places, organized by their divisions as the king had commanded. The Levites then slaughtered the Passover lambs and presented the blood to the priest, who sprinkled the blood on the altar while the Levites prepared the animals. They divided the burnt offerings among the people by their family groups so they could offer them to the Lord as prescribed in the book of Moses. They did the same with the cattle. Then they roasted the Passover lambs as prescribed, and they boiled the holy offering in pots and kettles and pans and brought them out quickly so the people could eat them. Afterwards, the Levites prepared Passover offerings for themselves, for the priest and the descendants of Aaron, because the priest had been busy from morning till night offering the burnt offerings and the fat portions. The Levites took responsibility for all these preparations. The musicians, the descendants of Asaph, were in their assigned place, following the commands that had been given by David, Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun, the king's seer. The gatekeepers guarded the gates and did not leave their post of duty, for their Passover offerings were prepared for them by their fellow Levites. The entire ceremony for the Lord's Passover was completed that day. All the burnt offerings were sacrificed on the altar of the Lord as King Josiah had commanded. All the Israelites present in Jerusalem celebrated Passover and the festival of unleavened bread for 7 days. Never since the prophet Samuel had there been such a Passover. None of the kings of Israel had ever kept a Passover as Josiah did, involving all the priests and Levites, all the people of Jerusalem, and people from all over Judah and Israel. This Passover was celebrated in the 18th year of Josiah's reign. So what did you catch from that? What did you hear that was flowing naturally out of Josiah, as well as the Levites and the priests and the people of Israel? Well, in the very beginning, you heard that Josiah was an encourager. Like it says, Josiah also assigned the priests to their duties and encouraged them in their work at the temple of the Lord. Like, we start out with his encouragement and we continue on as you see that where one was doing their job, another would pick up what they weren't able to do. And it was a willingness. There was a willingness. They were looking for opportunities to put together this Passover, to celebrate this Passover successfully. And where one was doing one task and wasn't able to handle everything, another came up alongside them and did what they couldn't do. And you hear in my voice emotion. And the reason you hear emotion in my voice is I am in a season of life where I am watching this set of attitudes of kindness and generosity flow out of the church. And it just touches my heart. I am seeing the church be the church. I am seeing generosity from so many people. It probably from more people than I even realized, to be honest, that are just giving of their resources, giving of their time, willing to do all that they do not have to do in order to come up alongside somebody who right now is carrying a load. And they're coming alongside and helping to carry not only that load, but all the other loads that person is unable to carry during this season. The kindness and the generosity is just overwhelming me. When you walk through adversity, you learn. Well, if you're willing, you learn. Been teaching through the story of Joseph, and as Joseph went through years and years of adversity, and then when he goes from going through that period of adversity, which was, ballpark of maybe about 13 years, when he goes through that period of personal adversity, he walks straight into a communal adversity where they're all experiencing it together. The COVID situation, the 9/11 for us down here in South Louisiana, Hurricane Katrina, the adversity that affects everyone at the same time. But Joseph's personal adversity and what he learned about God during that season of time helped him to lead the people through their communal adversity. And times of adversity, God can definitely teach us if we will let him. If we will let him. And in the midst of reading this Passover story, I just was overwhelmed to see that what automatically flowed out of Josiah, what automatically flowed out of the Levites and the priests, were that to be helpers, to encourage others, to lift each other up, and to lift up what the others weren't able to do. It was an automatic. And my prayer for each of us is that God will search us and know our hearts, that he will test us and know our anxious thoughts, that he will point out any way in us that offends him and lead us in the way of everlasting life, and that he will put his microscope on our lives and show us what is naturally flowing out during this season of time. And if what is naturally flowing out is not love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, then that we would have the courage to submit to him, have him draw out what should not be in us and pour in what should, so that we naturally have the flow of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this podcast. And as we say each week, it's always a trust and obey kind of day.